Hello, how have you been? Keeping well, I hope? Good. So that was Iconic Arms Season 2. Needless to say, it consumed me, so I did drop a few ancillary responsibilities there. I did actually plan to do a mid-season episode for bonus, but well, it kind of kept on getting pushed back, because I always had something better to do, you know? Anyway, you have me back now. Season's done, I'm moving on to a new project, and because it's likely that this new project will take me a few weeks, I'll keep you updated. I'll talk a little bit about my next project later, but I suppose this bonus is really an Iconic Arms debrief. 6 new episodes has taken us to the grand total of 13 Iconic Arms. That's not bad going. Anyway, in case you didn't realise, Iconic Arms is going to take a break now. I do these things in blocks of 6 episodes. For a couple of reasons. The first is to preserve my sanity. Having a finite run of something gives me a goal, sort of a finish line to aim for, so I don't burn out. And secondly is the fact that some people don't like the firearms content, which sounds weird considering my channel's history, but believe it or not, from the brief history of graphics and from some of the other video game-centric projects I've done, there are some people who, well, they don't really like the gun stuff, which is fine. But that leaves me kind of caught between a portion of my audience who isn't into guns and a portion of my audience who is into guns. And so I've got to... It's hard to keep everybody happy. So it's a bit of a juggling act, really. I mean, the thing is, Iconic Arms is quite popular. It does all right. But I don't want to do it for too long, because you might lose the interest of other people. It's... anyway, yeah, like I say, it's time for a break. When I say Iconic Arms will return, it's really code for Iconic Arms is going away for a little while now. Still, pretty solid videos. I think I have now a better understanding of what makes a good episode of Iconic Arms. I could tell you my secret. In fact, I will tell you my secret. The secret is in the story. In fact, gather round, I'll tell you a story. So, alright, picture me. I am in the ramp up to Season 2. It was at this point I was rewatching all of the old episodes, trying to pin down what made Iconic Arms special, what made it work. Because I still don't really know why Iconic Arms is so popular. It's a weird format, it's a mishmash of real gun info and games, and it's this sort of intersection between guns and video games that shouldn't work, that shouldn't be a place for a video to exist, but it does. So it's a weird topic, but there's something just very together about these vids, something which is quite satisfying, and I wanted to try and pin that down so I could replicate it. And I watched all of the old videos, and I made a few notes. I determined what I liked, what I didn't like, and for the MP5 video, I remember writing one specific thing. It was in response to the Operation Nimrod, the story about how the MP5 became the star of an SAS hostage rescue operation. And I wrote down simply, stories are nice. Now, during the production of Season 2, I kind of took that as a cue to tell a story if an opportunity presents. But what I didn't realise is that, at its very core, Iconic Arms is a story. Never mind, individual operations, never mind little anecdotes like that. No, the whole thing, the overarching video, the entire thing is a story, and that is the best way to approach it. And, like a story, you start at the beginning, then you go to the middle, and then you go to the end. That's all there is to it. The trick is, of course, to make sure that the transitions are relatively smooth, that there's a continuity, and that things follow in a logical fashion. But the most important thing about telling a story is transformation. You don't want to fall into the trap of just listing off a series of events. That's not what a story is at all. That's a timetable, a list. It's not a story. A story is, it's full of expectation and drama and surprise. It's about challenges and how a protagonist changes in the face of those challenges. So, to get back to the point, I came to the realization during Season 2 that Iconic Arms is a story. And the protagonist is, of course, the weapon. Unfortunately, I only came to this realization for the last episode, the M1911. And it was here that I first consciously applied the techniques of storytelling. And I think it works. I think the M1911 episode might be the best of the season. I mean, don't get me wrong, the fact that it's an interesting weapon with a story does help. You know, it is one of the weapons that lended itself particularly well to the format. But I do think it paid off. I do think it was one of the better received episodes. The weakest episode? Probably the Uzi. Although, it was the failures of the Uzi that made me realise the right way of going about things. So, in that respect, I have no regrets. But the Uzi was a little bit more disjointed. There wasn't really a narrative so much as it was a series of sections of facts. And, you know, yes, there is some insight in those sections, but unless you link them together, and unless you sort of tie them off neatly at the end, it doesn't come across quite so well. I do think the other four were still pretty good. All of the right elements are in place, and there is a bit of a story to each of them. The SPAS 12 one, that worked pretty well. I think that was together. The two generics, the minigun and the Magnum revolver, I think when I do a generic, there is an erosion of the identity of the weapon, because you're talking about groups of weapons. Certainly in the case of the Magnum revolver, so you do lose kind of a portion of the weapon's identity, which does make it harder to tell a story. And then there's the M16 episode. That was okay, I think that was alright. It's a popular weapon, you know. The only negative response to that was the fact that it was quite pro-America. But it's difficult to sing the praises of the M16 without appearing pro-American. You know, the M16 it's a symbol of America. A bit like the M1911, really. This is why I like to limit the amount of American weapons that I do in a season. I'm not one for patriotism, or patriotism, as the Americans might say, but certain weapons do demand it. I mean, I've got to be nice to the Americans, like 75% of my audience is American, plus they've got a bunch of guns. I don't want to annoy them. Anyway, that was Iconic Arms Season 2. No do-overs. When will Season 3 be? That's a good question, thanks. I don't know. I'm going to do a bunch of other stuff first. I want to do a season of Retro Hoy. I want to do a couple of specials, maybe a few specials. And I want to do a half season of Origins. And then, at that point, if I'm feeling it, I might do Iconic Arms Season 3. I was thinking, I might do a half season at some point. So 3 episodes in a run. Because there's a whole bunch of World War II weapons. I've done the Garand, I've done the M1911, but there's plenty more to cover. So to get through them, I might do like a mini-series of 3. I was thinking I might do the Sturmgewehr, the Thompson, maybe the Mosin Nagant. I might do that as like a mini-series, but that's just an idea, I don't know. I tell you, I'm out of practice on this bonus thing, I've forgotten how to do it. I've just been talking about Iconic Arms. Bonus is all about you guys. So, let's answer some 2-month-old questions. Let's do this rapid fire style. Let's see how many we can get through in the next 10 minutes. Lucas says, "Hi Stu, what is your favourite core date?" Humans. All my best friends are humans. Second place, cats. Vladimir Putin says, "Have you bought Storm Island DLC for Forza Horizon 2? If so, what did you think of it? Is it worth €20? I did buy it. I did enjoy it. I paid £15 and I'm happy enough with that, but I am a bit of a Forza fanboy. I think if you liked Forza Horizon 2 and you want a bit more, then by all means go for it." Shadow Reflex says, "Hey Stu, favourite German car manufacturer?" Probably Porsche. BMW, Mercedes aren't bad though. I'd take either of those, to be honest. D-Dog 501101 says, "Hey Stu, what do you think about making a brief history of zombies, considering how they're all the rage these days?" Well, I don't think they're as popular as they used to be, but they are, they're still there, aren't they? There are still zombie games coming out. They are a pretty cool topic, and I do think a video on them could work. I wouldn't hold your breath, but yeah, that could happen. That definitely could happen. Will Richard says, "Hey Stu, how many games roughly do you think you have downloaded on your PC, and how many have you bought for console? Just wondering, as your videos have a wide variety of old and new games." Console games, I probably have a couple of 100 discs floating around, and PC games, I think I've got about 600 Steam games, and as far as emulation is concerned, I've probably got thousands of ROMs. To put things in perspective, my PlayStation 1 emulation directory is some 700 gigabytes, and my MAME, which is arcade machines, 30 gigabytes. Torellis says, Stuart, thoughts on Patreon? I get asked this a lot. I like the idea in principle. I mean, it's free money, isn't it? Money for nothing. But I do worry how it would shape the dynamic. And I also resent the fact that they take 15%. Also, I'd feel guilty for taking money for nothing. I really would. I'm not some sort of panhandler. And I know most people would give willingly, but it changes the dynamic slightly. It changes expectation. You know, if people give me money for a month and I take a holiday, then I feel bad. Whereas now, you know, I have the power, you know? I can just say to you, I'm off, guys. I'll see you in 6 months, and you can't do anything. Oh, as a side note, it's my wedding anniversary next week, and I'll be going away for a few days. This doesn't really change anything. It does impact my bonus schedule slightly. You probably won't get one next week, but after I come back, you'll get another one. Turtle with an M16 says, Stu, have you ever considered getting a motorbike in the future? If so, what bike would you go for? I have considered a bike, although I do think I'll probably go down the car route instead, unfortunately, because it's, you know, boring and less likely to get you killed. But if I were to get a bike, I think on the low end I'd probably go for a Honda 125, principally because I like the Repsol Honda colours. And then on the high end, I don't know, probably a Ducati or something. I do quite like the look of them, you know, the style. The Monsters seems quite nice. Point 303 operator says, Stu is a Labour Party voter confirmed. Actually, I don't think I've ever voted Labour. Now, if you were to say to me, Stu, you have to choose between the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, I'd say the Labour Party. But we've got general elections coming up, haven't we? I'm hoping I'll be able to vote Pirate Party. I think they're running in Manchester. I tend to vote for the smaller parties, you know, just because I like the underdog. And, you know, to the larger candidates, a single vote doesn't mean anything. But to the guy who's independent, you know, if he gets 14 votes instead of 13, that's made his day, that is. Snazzy Mudkip says, Stu, I'm guessing you're not a fan of the PC Master Race, and it's interesting that these people categorise themselves superior using a piece of Nazi ideology. I don't really care about the Nazi thing. It's mildly offensive, but it's a joke. It is true that I don't really care for the whole PC Master Race thing, though. I do like the PC as a platform. I do think, yeah, you know what, the PC is the superior platform technically. If you're that bothered about frame rate and all that sort of guffins, yeah, of course the PC is where you need to be. Now, if you told me, Stu, you can only game on one platform, it would be the PC. That's where the most games are, that's what emulation is, and I need a PC to do my work. So of course I'd choose a PC. That being said though, I like having the consoles as well. So I don't care what platform people play on, I really don't. So, you know, it's nice to see people passionate about the platforms they play on, but when it turns into elitism, come on, son. Based Joel says, he carries round his first RAM. Ahoy, I didn't know you were autistic. Oh look, we've got a genuine medical doctor. I've never been diagnosed with autism, nor am I autistic in any fashion. My wife thinks I'm autistic sometimes, but the truth is sometimes I don't have the patience for social situations, and so I say the wrong thing. HR Hater 92 says, geez, Stu, you are pretty bad at Smash. To be fair, you were seeing one of my first games with Smash, and it seems like the older I get, the worse my default ability is at games. I can still get alright at games if I practice, but when I first start out, I don't know, man. After 30, everything's downhill. It's a process that I call Ken Burtonisation. Captain Killfeed says, I think now is a good time to start uploading the old Retro Ahoy stuff, between IA Season 2 and all previous stuff. This is actually going to happen. I'm going to upload the old Retro Ahoy episodes to my main channel ahead of the new Retro Ahoy season. So I'm thinking one a day for, 9 days? And then there'll be a double weekend, maybe a double weekend. I think it's definitely worth it, you know. A lot of people haven't seen the original Retro Ahoy videos, and having them on my main channel will give them better search placement, because my main channel, it performs much better. There's much more momentum there, and it makes them much more visible. So yeah, no, definitely good for the videos. They don't stand up so well. They have a charm, but I think I've improved a lot since doing them a couple of years ago. Well, a few years ago now. They were 2011? Oh, 4 years. Maybe 3 years. Sam Haskell says, hey Stu, have you considered doing a brief history of British video game devs? I have, but I think I'm going to lead off with a country that is not Britain. I think I might do France first. The French are actually quite similar to the British. I think we have a shared history of platforms. I know the Amiga was popular in France, and I think the 8-bit micros, the Spectrum, I think, and the Commodore 64, they were reasonably popular too. So there's this kind of a shared development heritage there. And the French, they've had some really nice sort of games, like Another World, Flashback, Delphine Software. They've always had this, I think they've always been about cinematicism, at least in the early days, the 16-bit era. Today, you've got Ubisoft. Who else? Can't remember. Infogrames in the middle there. There's a few dev houses to talk about, but yeah, I think the French have made a decent contribution to video games, and it'd be nice to explore that and expound on, some of the famous devs like Eric Chai and, the style that they've given us. Zymaru says, Stu, I was planning on getting another cat, probably a kitten. I already have a pretty old cat already. Any advice on how I should introduce the two of them, or do I just bring the other cat home and it'll take care of itself? Well, it rather depends on the cat and how territorial it is. Probably the best thing to do is separate them at first and give the kitten its own territory, its own space, somewhere it can retreat to. And then, maybe think about a limited introduction, supervised at first, and then, if they're okay with one another, then just, let them sort it out. Eventually you will have to do that, and in the case of ours, we got a new adopted cat who was older, and she was very skittish, she was very old. Well, she's not very old, she's 8 years old, and she hid for a couple of weeks. She just went straight under the furniture, stayed there for a couple of weeks. She came out for food, which is good, because, cats need to eat. But and it took a while for her to settle down. But then, with a kitten, though, I think you might be alright. They're a little bit more forgiving. Alex C says, I don't actually remember any episode of Extra where you talk about music, so what are your top 5 music genres? And examples for each genre? Man, I don't even know 5 genres. This isn't going to be in any particular order, but alright, let's go. Trip hop. I like trip hop. Favourite acts include Moloko, Tricky, Portishead, Sneaker Pimps. They're okay. Next genre, hard house. Yeah, it's lame, but I still like it. Favourite acts, Ingo, BK, UK Gold. Pretty much anything on Tidy Tracks, really. Next genre, acid house. 808 State, a guy called Gerald for that one song he did. Too far gone, no way back. Adonis. By extension, some rave stuff, like early Prodigy. Actually, I quite like mid Prodigy. And to be honest, late Prodigy isn't bad either. Basically, anything with Hoovers in it. I do also like stuff of a slower pace. Stuff, that's a little bit softer. I tend to prefer female vocalists. Don't know why. Just do. I like Metric. I also like Goldfrapp. Cake are good. I like Cake. Boards of Canada. Yes, huge fan of them. Aphex Twin. Crystal Method. I'm just looking through my Spotify starred list here. Paramore. Paramore are a guilty pleasure. Let's see. Scars on Broadway. I like that one song. Ladyhawk. I like My Delirium. That's the only good song they've ever done. Crystal Method. Glass Candy. That's kind of... Yeah, it's a little bit blondie, but... What else? New Young Pony Club. They're pretty good. Radioactive Man. I like Radioactive Man. Mr. Scruff as well. Electronic stuff in general. Fisher Spooner. They're, a bit weird. I remember they appeared on Top of the Pops in their underwear. Which, that sums up the band, pretty much. Anyway, we've hit 19 minutes. That tells me that we're nearly at the end of this bonus. That tells me that I should probably talk about my next project. It's going to be a fairly big project. I have given it the title Nuclear Fruit, which is a hint of, what it contains. I can tell you it's about video games, and it's about the Cold War. More than that, I will not say. It's kind of a narrative arc through history. It's similar in presentation to the Doomed video that I did. Not related in topic, but related in approach. It's going to be a story throughout video game history. But it is about the Cold War, so it's going to be a little bit more sort of real-world history. It's going to be a little bit more political, but not controversially so. It's just going to talk about, stuff like, ooh, the Cold War, Russia, ooh. I'm currently in the planning stages, and I think this might be a multi-part video. I might do it in a similar fashion to a brief history of graphics, and I might do it as 5 parts. But I'll release them all in the same week. I'll do it probably Monday to Friday. And then I'll do a super edit maybe the week after, or maybe on Sunday, I don't know. The week after does extend it. I kind of feel bad about splitting up a video into multiple parts, but it does earn me more in terms of ad revenue, and it does also enforce better structure. If I, because me talking for half an hour non-stop is a little bit intense, whereas if I split it into 6 or 7 minute chunks, it actually works better. And I was impressed. I was actually impressed with the reception to the 5-part graphic series. So I might do it in a similar format. Which is, from a financial point of view, it actually gives me carte blanche to spend an entire month on it. If I'm going to get 5 or 6 videos out of it at the end, then it's not such a big deal. If I was to compound everything to a single video, spending a month on it, it wouldn't be that commercially viable. But a multi-part, well, lets me go longer. Lets me invest more time into it. So, yeah, I think it should be a good one, this. If you like documentaries and if you like video games, it should be really interesting. I think I've got an interesting angle. I genuinely do believe this is a good idea. It might not perform as well as some of the other videos I do, but I do think the people who watch it will be impressed. This will be very much a portfolio piece. If it turns out well, when people ask what I do, I will point them to this video that I haven't done yet. Anyway, that's it. That's a bonus. That's 20 minutes of full goodness. Anyway, as I mentioned, I am going away next week, just for a few days, but it does disrupt my schedule a bit. Wedding anniversary, it's been a year already. But there will be another bonus inside of 2 weeks. So, until then, farewell.